So welcome to Living Conversations, hosted by Living Bankside. I'm Joseph Bonner,
I'm Keanna.
and this is another in a series of short interviews which we are having with candidates who are taking part in the forthcoming local elections here in the London Borough of Southwark. And Living Conversations, as I say, hosted by Living Bankside, we'll be discussing life and politics and maybe some current affairs and how we might be able to solve some of these issues. Now, we're joined today by Arif Hussain. Welcome, Arif.
Thanks so much.
And you were born and have lived all your life in Southwark.
Yep,
And you're running as a candidate for the Liberal Democrats in the Chaucer Ward.
that's correct.
And you're 19 years of age, so you are the youngest candidate to run for a councillor in Southwark in the last few decades, we believe. And if elected, would be the youngest councillor in Southwark. So good to get your perspectives this afternoon. And just thinking with the campaign a few weeks away from the election on May 7th, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling quite a lot of emotions, but most importantly, I am feeling very, very excited. And I really do hope I have the privilege and honour to actually be a councillor for Chaucer. And I guess also I really do hope that I can be a representative for the people of Chaucer. And at the end of it, change people's lives for the better and have a positive impact on everyone.
Good. And the campaign itself, so your first experience of an actual
Yep.
political campaign, how's it been going?
I think it's going really well in terms of it's something that's very new. Learning so many new skills, and the whole process I've found really intriguing as well as really exciting.
So lots of door knocking and
Yep,
getting
months
around.
months of door knocking, months of talking to so many residents, months of attending different meetings, meeting different TRAs, and so yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Great, good. Keanna, over to you.
So you've mentioned a few things already, but what sort of drove you to want to be a councillor? And, what are the main issues you've seen that inspired that and that you want to address?
So I guess one of the first things that actually drove me to be a councillor is to kind of get more young people involved with the community. So the way I was thinking of it is that if I was to be a counsellor, I could be a role model for other people, other young people, to volunteer in the community, get involved with the community, and just be an active part of the community. And hopefully, by looking at me, they could see, if he's able to get involved with the community, why can't I get involved with the community? So I guess the whole idea was just really encourage young people to really get involved and genuinely be an active part of the community. Some of the other issues, I guess, also that I would like to address is kind of making Southwark more greener. But I think a specific part of that is kind of getting the idea of environmental sustainability, being more greener, more accessible, and more understood by more diverse communities and more working-class communities. And I think that's something that's not being focused enough on. Another area that I would like to focus on is kind of, I guess, regarding community spirit, kind of reaching out to more working class and more, diverse people and diverse communities that don't feel like really close to community. They feel, I guess you could say, somewhat alienated. And I feel as though they may feel like, their voices aren't heard, they're not seen, and they're not, their ideas aren't valued enough. And I really, really want to change that. I really want to reach out to them and make it clear that, your voices are heard and, your ideas are valued and you're really, really an important part in shaping local decisions. Another issue that I would like to address, which I think is a very big one, and I found it to be a very common issue, through months of door knocking, canvassing, talking to people, is regarding housing. So obviously overcrowding, you've got really poor repairs and maintenance, and general estate cleanliness, and that's something I really want to address. And I really want to make sure that everyone feels proud of their home and people feel safe in the house and then for the home. And another area I guess all over news is cost of living. In terms of, I want to make sure that residents of Chaucer are able to have the access and support they need to make sure they're not falling behind as living costs are rising. Another kind of area that I would say I'm really passionate about is regarding young people. So making sure that young people have opportunities and have guidance and have support for the next steps, whether that's employment, whether that's university and higher education, or whether that's apprenticeships. And I guess the final one that I really do care about is kind of the community spirit, making sure that the community spirit should be more stronger, and kind of make sure that residents are really involved in kind of local decisions.
Wow, to be honest, I didn't expect that answer from you, but I'm quite impressed. I think the fact in itself that you're a candidate and the age you are says a lot about your drive and your passion, and I think that in itself is commendable. But you know, you've spoken a lot about community and being a spokesperson for people. So tell me who you are. Why should people vote for you?
So, as you know, my name is Arif Hussain. I'm 19 years old, and as Joe said, I could be the youngest councillor here. Um, I was born in Southwark. I've lived in Southwark my whole life. I've studied in Southwark. All my friends are from Southwark. So I guess I really do love to call Southwark my home. And as a result, because I've lived in Southwark my entire life, I know what makes Southwark so unique, what makes Southwark so special, and also what areas that Southwark could improve on. I am from a small family, so it's just me, my mum, my dad. So it's a very tight-knit family, and I think that's where that, the idea of kind of community and closeness and tightness stems from. Aside from that, I am an apprentice. I'm 7 months in right now, and I am a technology consultant. And I guess through my apprenticeship, I've learned so many skills such as, time management, organizational skills, communication, accountability, which I think can all be brought to this role as councillor. I'm also very involved with the local community stuff. So, I've been involved in for months. So I've been involved with local charities. I've been involved with local litter picks in my area. I've been involved with local mosque activities. So obviously the idea of, getting involved with the community, helping out with the community and being a part of the community is not something that I'm not used to, I'm not familiar with. In terms of me as a person, I would say I'm someone who's a good listener, which I think is a really, really important trait to have as a councillor. I'm also someone who does love to take action. As a result, why I'm becoming a councillor, because I really do want to see change, and I want to push for change, and I want to see the community in a better position.
So I'm taking from that is the change that's the driving factor for you in what's motivating you to be a candidate at this young age. I understand you've also been a tutor for several years. Tell us what that means to you.
So I've been a tutor, so it's been around 2.5 years. And the reason I really wanted to be a tutor was to give back, because when I was younger, I didn't really have the privilege to have a tutor. And so I wanted to do something that kind of gives back. And I guess the main thing is change someone's life. So the idea of I can help a child who may be struggling with English or maths, and at the end of the journey, they've smashed the English, they've smashed the maths test, and they can, they're proud of how they performed, and they can tell me, what, thank you so much for helping me out, and I'm able to get into my dream school or dream sixth form or dream college. That means a lot to me. So I guess that's what really drove me to be a tutor, and that's why I'm still a tutor today.
And when you have time off, what are the kind of things that you like to do when you're not canvassing, that is? What do you get up to in Southwark, or even outside of Southwark? Presumably you just don't stay in Southwark all the time. You get out to other parts of London and elsewhere.
Obviously, I mean, even I still do spend a lot of time in Southwark. So I do like to hang out with my friends. We do like to play football, basketball, and just, hang out, grab food. Yeah, I really do love food. So, try different food spaces and, just enjoy whatever Southwark has to offer and what London has to offer.
Do you have a favourite food place in the borough that you can admit to?
I mean, it's hard. I think every single food space has something unique to offer.
You're almost becoming a politician already, I think. Very good.
So, you've spoken a lot about the borough and sort of what you do in the borough, but what does the borough mean to you? Like, what is specific to Southwark that differentiates it for you, that, makes it feel like home, that makes it feel like a place you want to stand up for?
I think what really, really makes Southwark so unique, and I love about Southwark, and I think it sets apart, is how diverse it is in essentially all aspects. Whether it's people from all around the world, from people from Bangladesh like me, to people from Philippines, Vietnam, to people from Algeria, Nigeria, Ghana, to Colombia, you'll see or you'll meet people and you know people from all over the world. It's just not, it's not being all over the world. It's people from all backgrounds of life, people from different socio-economic backgrounds, people from, different walks of life. And I think the idea that everyone's here and everyone's able to, be friends with each other and everyone's able to get along with each other, it really really embraces that community spirit, which I'm so passionate about. And I think you can tell, like, it's something that I really care about. And I think that's what makes Southwark so special, the fact that I was able to share my own cultures with other people. And I was so privileged, and I had the honor to actually learn about different cultures from all over the world. I think that's what makes Southwark so unique and so special, and that's what makes me so proud to be part of Southwark and from Southwark.
Wow, honestly inspirational. Joseph?
So, what I should have also said before we get into some of the more policy issues, that of course, Living Bankside hosting this series of conversations, we as an organisation are apolitical, so we don't endorse either parties or individuals. But of course, we wish everybody well. But I just also wanted to make sure that our listeners and people online were aware of that. But turning more to some of the actual issues. Housing and development is a big issue for us here in Southwark, and residents are increasingly find that issues they raise around repairs and waste and safety and all manner of other issues. You talked about them in housing. Basically, residents feel that there is no hope and that they don't matter. How do you think you can change that?
I think the first main thing that I would change is kind of building the communication between residents. I think obviously through months of door knocking and canvassing, I think the message is clear. Residents feel a sense of distrust. They don't really trust the people who they need to ask for help because they've been ignored or they don't think they've been taken seriously. And I really want to change that. And as a result, I really genuinely want to hear, communicate with residents, be an active listener, understand what the issues are, and really take care of it, take care of matters, and make sure that, if they do have an issue, it's just not brushed aside. Because the bottom line is that every single resident's issue matters, and there's no such thing as an issue is too small or too insignificant. And residents shouldn't feel that their issue may not be seen as important enough and they don't raise that. So that's one thing I want to change. The second thing I want to change is someone who's a very active counsellor, someone who's very easy to approach and ask for help and raise issues. I myself live in a council house, and I understand how frustrating it is to, not get help, to be ignored, chasing up councillors, chasing up the different repair departments for, issues regarding your house that should have been fixed months ago. I know how frustrating that is. And I've experienced that firsthand. And I don't ever want a single resident to go through the same issues and same problems. And finally, I do want to take proactive solutions. For example, one of the fixes that Lib Dems are proposing is a one-stop shop where residents are able to directly go down and speak to someone face to face and get help with the issues. And I think this is really helpful, especially people who aren't comfortable talking over the phone, and especially elderly people who find it hard to navigate all the different departments and which numbers to call. I think it's stuff like this that will make a huge difference. And I think by taking them small wins is how we're going to change for the better.
Great, good. Well, there's a whole host of issues with housing. We've been talking to other candidates and some who are existing councillors from the different parties, and we'll perhaps maybe invite a further conversation to get into the issue of housing and planning in more detail. So who knows, we might be inviting you back for a discussion on that with your perspectives. Just another issue is a whole social division, hatred, call it what you will, division. It's on the rise all over the country, but even in London and Southwark, we are seeing people of different faith backgrounds, women and those from ethnic minorities being the target of online, verbal and even physical abuse and attacks. How do we tackle this issue, would you say? How do we promote unity and ensure everyone feels safe?
I think first and foremost, the bottom line is any sort of attack, any sort of hate is unacceptable, regardless of what skin color you are, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your age, your gender, your orientation, regardless of your beliefs, your cultures. The bottom line is any attack, any hate, any sort of violence to do with that is completely unacceptable. And especially in Chaucer, obviously, speaking to a lot of people, we've spoken to a lot of women who feel like, they don't feel safe. A lot of some Muslims who don't feel safe, and especially a Muslim woman who, have to go out there wary, they're scared, especially what's going on recently around the news. And at the bottom line, it's completely unacceptable, and that can't happen. And me personally, myself, as somebody who's Muslim and who has a mum and who has a sister, it kind of affects me a lot, because I can imagine how I'd feel if my own mother, if my own sister fell under, God forbid, they were to be attacked or something bad was to happen to them. So I think it's a matter that I really, really do care about. In terms of how to address that, I think the bottom line is creating much more, working much more strongly with local services to make sure that any kind of issues or any case of attack or abuse is dealt with straight away and dealt with correctly, and make sure that people don't feel as though, after they've been attacked, there's no one out there to help them. And I think, again, that's where the idea of the community comes in. I think the other thing that we could do to address this is really create a strong community and really stomp out any kind of division between the community. And, whether that's hosting community events, local barbecues, neighborhood parties, anything to bring the community together. And, bringing strangers together, and strangers turn into neighbors, and from neighbors to best friends. And I think that's the way forward, making sure that every single person in the community knows that any other person in the community will support them, has their back, and they have someone to talk to. I think that's the way to kind of stomp out any kind of hate, any kind of division, and any sort of violence that, again, frankly, cannot happen in Chaucer, and obviously you can't stand for that.
Good, thank you. Keanna, I think
I also have a few, other matters that I think, are quite prevalent today. For example, you've mentioned a lot about the youth. We've seen opportunities and facilities cut back over the last 15 years or so, with youth centres being closed down and young people having nowhere to go and having no outlets. And so, as a young person yourself, what would you say you've noticed that is prevalent for young people to have, and sort of what are the things that the council, for example, should be doing in order to support their youth?
I think first and foremost, the youth do need a safe space where they can go, whether that's after school or in their free times. And that's why I thought youth clubs, youth centres was so important, because it's just not a building. It's where different the youth can go and feel a sense of support, sense of community, sense of belonging. This is where I belong, and these are the people around me. And that's why I believe youth clubs and youth centres was so important. And it's just not that it's a place where people can actually enjoy their passions, whether that's sports, playing football, or doing something a bit more creative, or even doing something like getting advice on careers, advice on employment, advice on next steps in life. I think youth centres was so important for that. In addition, I think it's a very, very key thing in terms of addressing issues such as antisocial behaviour, kind of crime, which obviously, speaking to a lot of residents, Chaucer, is something that they're worried about. Especially the fact that if the youth had somewhere to go, some mentor that they could talk to, someone who understands what they're going through, someone who may relate to them. I think if there was someone like that they could talk to, it would help so much with these issues. Another issues that I think that the youth are having, or I think youth opportunities that should happen, is kind of getting the youth more involved with local communities. At the end of the day, they are the future, and their voice really matters. However, going door to door, I don't think that message is clear enough to the youth. I feel a lot of them just kind of have the ideas that, why should I get involved? Why does it affect me? And I think we can change that by, trying to encouraging youth volunteering and really pushing for youth leadership in local positions. Whether it's hopefully one day more youth or younger councillors, something to get the youth more involved and kind of be involved with local community decisions. I think another thing, I mentioned previously before, kind of pathways into further education, kind of make university, employment, and also with the growing popularity of apprenticeships, I think youth support for that is really crucial. And I guess also, again, it is a very, very fast-paced world. Everything changes so quick, whether it's technology, whether it's kind of, cost of living, everything's moving so quick, and I think we need specific support to help the youth. So whether that's, increasing digital literacy, or even something such as supporting mental health, which is such a big issue that I think is overlooked. And I guess the bottom line is that the youth need to be seen. They need to feel like they're heard. They need to feel that they're a crucial member of the community. They need to be supported, and they really need to be invested into, because they are the future of the community.
Well, I really like how you've touched on the inclusivity element, because a lot of the time groups will talk about, oh, we need to be inclusive of gender, of race, of age, but a lot of the time young people get overlooked. I think
100%.
especially where they don't necessarily have decision making power in terms of like voting, for example. It's sort of like, why would we ask you?
100%.
But even having young people such as yourself in positions where even if you aren't elected as a counsellor, even just seeing that you've made the extra step, you're being proactive, you're taking those opportunities to sort of better your community. I think that in itself is an inspiration, and sort of showing young people, oh, okay, like I can do this. It's not only a 50-year-old man that can sort of get into this position. It can be someone who's similar to me. But you also mentioned things like youth centres and youth spaces, and sort of having those opportunities and more relevant life skills. I think that is quite important, especially in the world we're in today, where schools don't teach you those skills.
100%.
Adults are working, and then you leave school, you jump into work. There's no time to sort of learn those key life skills, such as managing your finances, how to sort of apply for those jobs, how to build your experience and your network. And so, having those spaces is quite important for young people. And young people do say that's what they want. It's just that they're not listened to. So I think, having someone such as yourself will be quite important for them. Another thing you mentioned was about the cost of living crisis, affordability. And that is one of the issues that affects us all, since, I want to say, COVID times. It's been quite prevalent in Southwark. And, we've got new developments going up left and right in all the surrounding areas. But, a lot of communities are feeling left out and feeling left behind, and as if they're not heard nor seen. And so how do we make sure that long-standing residents, people who have built their families, generations have lived there, how are we making sure they're not being priced out and feel like they still have a say and place within their community?
I think, as you know, Southwark, there's a lot of new developments going in Southwark. And I think what needs to be changed, I think the idea of affordability has to be the heart of the development, and not something that the developers and the council think about after. I think the main thing to do is that, make sure that local businesses, new local shops, new local food places, new local services are kind of consider everybody, and, everybody can access them and everybody can afford them. And it's not just reserved for an exclusive group of people who, are on a bit on a higher income. And I think kind of policies need to be in place which ensures that residents who are already standing here and, they've built their whole life, they've been here for more than one generation, they don't feel that they're going to be forced to move out because of how expensive everything is and how expensive the shops are selling their goods for. And, they don't feel they're part of it. And I think the big issue is a lot of people are sometimes feeling that they're not really benefiting from the new developments. Yes, there's beautiful new shops selling nice food, there's new houses, but they don't feel that they're part of it. And a lot of people are feeling it a bit alienated in their own community. They don't recognize it. And I think we need to make sure that if there are new developments, it ensures that, long-standing residents are able to enjoy everything else and nobody's really excluded and everyone's able to, really enjoy what the new developments have to offer. I guess also on the idea of affordability and new housing, I guess there is a push for, building more houses, but I think we should also focus on building more high-quality houses as well. Building a place where people are proud to call their home, and I think that's what needs to be focused on as well. So I guess those are the two things that need to be focused on in the idea of affordability in the midst of new developments.
I definitely agree, especially in areas such as Chaucer, where, they're quite dense with families, especially. I think it is quite important, that you're providing people with safe and pleasant homes, not just somewhere that's a roof and four walls, but somewhere that I can go home, I feel safe in my own home, not somewhere where, you've got mold on the walls, your door doesn't lock, or, you've got people abusing drugs in your stairwell, you feel scared to go to your home, that should be one of the priorities, going forward. And I like the fact that you do address that.
Sounds like I could have a candidate on my left as well as on my right here. But sort of wrapping up, it's May next few weeks. The election is over. You've won. You've become this councillor, youngest perhaps in the history of the council. What is the one thing that you'd want a Southwark resident, Chaucer Ward, to say about your tenure 4 years on from being elected?
I think 4 years on from being elected, I think the first thing I would like is more young people stand into council roles. More young people. I would love to hear more young people saying, you know what, we had this young councillor and he inspired me. If he could do it, why can't I do it? Why shouldn't I not also do the same thing as well? And I think that would be so amazing to see more young councillors, more young councillors who can offer, a fresh perspective on how to do stuff, new, fresh set of ideas, fresh way of doing things. I think that's what I'd love to see. And especially if, more councillors said, because of you, I decided to become a councillor, or because of you, I decided, to get involved in my local community. I think that would mean the world to me. And I think another thing is that I would love to hear, I've had a positive impact on so many different families, whether it's small, big, any sort of positive impact. Whether, if I'm walking down the street, I get recognized, you help me with this, you help me with X, Y, Z, or I talk to somebody, you help me with X, Y, Z. I think that would mean the world to me because, again, I'm doing this because I really, really want to kind of get involved in my community, help my community, and make a difference in people's lives. So if 10 people or 20 people or 100 people, 1,000 people, if they said, you know what, you've had such a positive impact on me, thank you so much, or I think that would, for me personally, I'll be like, you know what, I had a goal here to achieve and I've achieved my goal. And I guess next thing I would love to see, an extension to more young people in counselling roles, more young people, more young people going to university, more young people into employment, more young people into kind of apprenticeships, and saying that, because of the opportunities you help support, or because of your support, I was able to get into this. And I guess the general idea is I just want to see my community in a better place, and I want to see just much more. I just really just want to see my community improve, and I guess that's the main goal that I want to achieve. And if I can achieve that, then I know I've played my part well.
Good. I'm just going back, reflecting on the first part of that that you answered. Is there a political hero that you've had that's motivated and inspired you, either in this country or elsewhere?
I don't think in terms of politics, I don't think I've had a political hero, or I've never been being heavily involved in politics. I think me becoming a councillor is purely because I'm really, really passionate about my area. I'm really, really passionate about helping the people here. I'm really, really passionate about change, and I genuinely want to see my area do better. And I guess because of that passion, that's why I decided to become a councillor. So I guess I wouldn't say I'm becoming a councillor because due to political reasons. It's more that, I really care about the people. I care about my community. I care about Chaucer, and I do care about Southwark. And as a result, that's why I become a councillor. So I wouldn't say I would have any political people that I look up to.
Okay. But you've chosen to be a Liberal Democrat candidate, so you could have chosen another party. What was it that drew you to be a candidate for the Lib Dems?
I think it was talking to the people and talking to the kind of people who are already standing councillors. And it's something I was like, when I was talking to people, I was kind of understanding, my main question was, why should I be a councillor? Why should I join you? What kind of values or goals, or why do you want to be a councillor? And I guess hearing them, listening to them, talking to them, I kind of realized, you know what, I do like what you're saying, and I would love to get involved. And I see some of our values align, and as a result, that's why I joined them.
Okay, good. Keanna, I think you got the last question.
Yeah, you said some amazing things, but I think one of the most pressing questions you'll probably face in your running is, you're young. What do you know? Why should we vote for you? You don't have the experience, you don't have that political background, as you said, you just have passion. So, what would you say to those people?
And I think it's something that I do sometimes hear door to door. And I guess it is something fair to say, but I don't think age alone should be something that determines whether someone should be a councillor or not, an experience alone. I think it's more about, are they capable? Are they passionate? And are they actually going to deliver on their words? And I think those three things also are equally as important or even more important than just, age or experience. And I think I can say from where I am right now, I think I've experienced a lot in kind of the stuff that I've been involved in, whether it's my work, dealing with so many different company, organizations, stakeholders, whether it's managing local community events, organizing, planning, running, make sure everything goes smoothly, whether it's my tuition and helping people, whether it's the other stuff I've volunteered, making sure that other people in the area, other people in the community are seen and are helped. I think they show a level of maturity and a set of skills that I think are so important, whether it's organizational skills, whether it's communication, whether it's just genuinely having a passion for the area. And I think that's equally as important. And on the idea of being young, I feel as though I will offer a new set of fresh perspectives that I don't think other people might think of, a new set of ideas, and just something, just a new way of doing things that maybe someone else might have not thought about, who may have so much experience and has been in politics or been in council for so long. In addition, I think, as I said before, I really do have a passion for helping young people. And I do believe as a young person, I understand what young people need. I understand what kind of support young people need. And I feel as though I'm someone who young people can talk to easily. And as a result, I think I'm a good representative for young people, as well as, every single other person in the ward. So I think there's so much more stuff that should be considered, or someone should consider, just other than age. And I guess the fact that I'm really passionate about this era, I think shows how much I'm willing to do to make sure that this era changes for the better.
Definitely, passion can take people very far.
Indeed. Well, I think that's a very good way to end. So thank you, Arif, for joining us. We have also just interviewed someone at the other end of the age spectrum who, as she said herself, an interview is 66 and has been in politics for 40 years, Councillor Kath from the Green Party. So it's great to have the perspectives of somebody of 19 and somebody who's at 66. And both of you, I think, are very passionate about what can be done, and I'll be very interested to see the outcome of the elections in a few weeks' time. But so good for us to get the two ends of the spectrum. So thank you. And let's wrap for now. And until next time, thank you very much from me, Joseph Bonner, and from you,
Keanna.
and our guest,
Arif Hussain.
Thank you very much.